Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot Roundup in partnership with Leave No Dem Behind, where I introduce you to candidates running in local elections throughout the country. I'm Bryan Randolph, and I'm here today with Michael Kripchak, who is running for U.S. House of Representatives to represent Ohio's 6th District. Hello, Michael. It is great to have you today. How are you?
Hey Brian, doing well. Pushing this last week up to the election, working our butts off.
Excellent, excellent. That's what you got to do, right?
Yep,
Got to fight to the finish line.
absolutely.
All right, well, let's get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you?
Originally from Youngstown, Ohio, so born and raised in the 6th District. Attended the U.S. Air Force Academy where I was a distinguished graduate, got a degree in physics. Was stationed as a science and acquisitions officer up at Hanscom Air Force Base right outside of Boston. After that, spent some time in L.A. Doing some acting and writing and odd jobs, as anyone who has spent time in that city knows that's how we do. Then went to grad school out at NYU in interactive telecommunications. After graduated from there, started a business with a buddy. We were getting our first contracts in Erie, PA, right when COVID hit, working with manufacturers. So that killed our business.
Mm.
And then at that time, my parents were going through some medical issues, and so that's what brought me back home to Youngstown, and been here ever since. So around four or so years now. Yeah,
All right, can you tell me a little bit about District 6?
it is allegedly one of the most gerrymandered districts in our state. A really important ballot issue that's on the ballot this election is issue one. It's the third time in the last 15 years that we've tried to get rid of gerrymandering in our state. Um, so yeah, it's about 2 hours and 47 minutes from one end to the other. It's 11 counties total, a huge swath of different demographics of people, rural, urban, and a lot of, what would be considered the Rust Belt. Um, that's why one of what I say is that my mission in Congress is singular: restore the American dream. And that means getting more money. Sorry, I guess I'm changing topics here. But that means getting more money into people's pockets by giving them the opportunity. I really love how Harris has leaned into this opportunity economy idea. It's something I've been talking about for months now, because it's what we need. The American dream doesn't feel obtainable, and as we've seen throughout history, its wealth gaps destroy societies. Extreme wealth disparities is what pushes democracies to fall. Um, if you look at the Weimar Republic in Germany prior to World War II, huge wealth gaps, a demagogue comes in, plays up people's fears and desperation, promises them the world, and then slams them down once they've consolidated power. It's tale as old as time, as it were, to to quote it. What's that mouse movie? I remember Five Goes West, but I forget
Five,
the the original. I forget the name of the original. Um,
American Tail.
American Tail. There it is. Um, so we're so yeah, my main mission to do that is to get manufacturing back to our district. We used to be a manufacturing powerhouse, and I like to say we have the people, we have the places, and we have the pedigree to do this. What I want to do is get an advanced manufacturing district because Germany lost all of their manufacturing to China. Same issue we've been dealing with. And they brought their industry back with strong unions. And now they're once again a manufacturing powerhouse of Europe. And that's doing advanced manufacturing. We want to do advanced composites, advanced materials. The way I glibly say it is that Intel and Altium cells that have new plants going in Ohio shouldn't have to leave the state to get any of the refined materials they need. Um, and the broader goal is to help us with energy independence. It's to push a fusion initiative. Um, and I used to call this a moonshot program, commercialization of fusion energy. But about a month into my campaign, Germany announced a 15-year, $20 billion investment into commercialization of fusion energy. And it is unacceptable for America to be behind in these things. We are the best when we are leading the way, and we cannot give up that place at the table of the world. So sorry, that was a
Uh,
lot.
oh, nope, nope, that's fine. That's fine. So I would say that a lot of Republican right-wing politicians tend to believe that you cannot have that sort of growth with regulation and uh, that sort, heavy regulation, that kind of thing. How do
Yeah.
you feel about growing an industry, an area, and still regulating it and unionizing and all of that?
Well, look, when I decided to do this, what got me into this was January 6th, right? When I say I never cared about politics until we started going through this in our country, I never cared about politics. Chalk it up to being in the military and they want us to be apolitical. Um, but also part of it is just me being a trained scientist. I was like, okay, it's just a bunch of people who blabber on. They don't look at the problems to help us just solve the problems and then shut up beyond that. Um, and so for me, getting into this, it was like, okay, great, let's look at history. And history says that they are wrong. History says that they are lying. Um, right, some of the period of time when the American middle class was formed and you actually could get a 9 to 5 job and build wealth, 60s and 70s, right? There were regulations in existence at those times. Um, some of the strongest union periods in our nation's history. And it was when we had some of the least wealth disparity in our country and some of the most amazing growth that we've had in our country that was truly raising all ships. Um, and what I'd also say to that is it's a misunderstanding of what a free market economy means, right? Capitalism was designed by Adam Smith as a response to mercantilism. When companies and countries, often as one entity, but were in cahoots together, abusing workers, abusing their buyers, abusing their suppliers. And capitalism was designed to address this issue, make sure profits were reasonable, make sure everyone got their fair share, and make sure the system actually worked for the betterment of all of society. And so free doesn't mean lawless. Free means free access. And a lot of times that requires a structure, right? The free market economy cannot exist without the structure put in place by a government. And so we could debate how strict that structure needs to be. But especially the people in my district, I remind them, we're the place in our country where we used to set rivers and lakes on fire, right? We know what that looks like, right? We have had violence at mills because of worker treatment and, government coming in and shooting at people to, put down unions before unions were legal in our country. So we know what that looks like. And so what I would say to everyone is like, please look at history, like get rid of ideology. I didn't come into this with any ideology other than I do believe we are the greatest nation on the planet and we need to start acting like it. But beyond that, it was like, go learn with an open mind. And I know it's scary, it's confusing. You're going to go through this period where it's frustrating and nothing makes sense. And then you're going to go get confused. And then on your way out, you're going to start to understand, okay, I wasn't totally off. I just needed this adjustment and this. It's scary and difficult, but the truth will out in the end. So again, another long-winded answer, but I think it's so vitally important for people to understand we tried this stuff before, right? We know what constant deregulation looks like because we used to have a country with no regulations to help workers and protect workers. We've been here before, right? We've experienced the Gilded Age, right? We know what 4 decades of trickle-down economics has produced. And it's produced one of the largest wealth gaps in our nation's history. So please do your research. It sucks. It's hard, but it must be done, especially with this place we're at in our country, because demagogues and manipulators will play your brain and your feelings against you.
I heard you say, when there's a gold rush, be the one making the shovels. And I know you said that's not originally your quote, and you can tell me
Mhm.
who it is. But right now, what is the gold rush, and who is making the shovels?
So the gold rush is green technology. And it's actually a quote from Levi of Levi Strauss fame. Um, and especially with our manufacturing heritage, we have the opportunity to be the one producing the backbones of the green tech economy. Um, who's making that now? Look, There are other districts in our nation that are getting this funding. Ohio's getting a piece of it, but we should, especially with our pedigree, should be getting more of it. And that's why we need someone with vision who actually wants to work to get more green tech industry here. And I mean, on the green tech front, we used to lead the way in solar panels. We invented them. And then because of big oil lobbyists, they reduced government funding towards solar panel research. All these industries went overseas. And that's how we lost being in the pole position for solar panels. That's why for me, I'm trying to look at what's next. And again, with fusion energy, there's lots of different technologies out there that could potentially be the one that quote unquote wins out. But as the advanced materials manufacturing hub, no matter which of those wins out, we'll be the ones making the shovels. And then also, like, I got the United Mine Workers endorsement, right? But I also got the Sierra Club endorsement. How is that possible? It's because I talked to the mine workers and said, yes, of course, I'm going to do what Sherrod Brown has done and help you protect your pensions. Obviously, it's ridiculous to abandon you. Secondly, I see a future in coal that's not just burning it up. We could use the coal. We could use the trace gases that come from the mines, that's in the rock itself, trace materials to do trace elements to develop futuristic materials. We could use it to make carbon fiber, bucky tubes, and this material called graphene, which is a one atom layer thick of graphite. But it's stronger than diamond, lighter than steel, and transmits electricity better than copper. And those are the kind of technologies we're going to need to make our electricity grid robust enough as you transition to different energy sources in any different energy locations. So being the one making the shovels means being the ones providing the backbone for an industry. And that's what we used to do in our district, and that's what we need to do again.
Could you give me an issue or a couple of issues where you and your opponent differ?
Um, it's hard to say what we agree upon. He's a talker. Look, he doesn't believe in global warming. And I'm sorry to everyone out there. It's not a belief question. It's a knowledge question. If you never engage with the knowledge that says it's happening, of course you're going to think it's a belief thing. Um, he was behind Ohio's heartbeat law. So he obviously thinks that if your child gets raped, they need to be forced to carry that pregnancy. We ran a special election against each other as I've been going around saying we need federal funds back here. It's just about spending them here rather than elsewhere. He's been giving people excuses how, well, we're actually not going to be able to bring back many funds because we have to cut federal funding. I mean, the sad part is I don't think he understands what he's doing, and I don't know if he cares to learn. And when it comes to voters themselves, he doesn't show up. I've heard he's been in the state house, and I've heard from Republican township trustees saying, "Well, yeah, and he never returns our calls. And he doesn't show up to any forums. He's scared to debate me. It's so the list goes on and on. But ultimately, I'd say the biggest one, he doesn't want to learn, right? I think that encompasses everything from when it comes to
Yeah.
understanding what people need, global warming, reproductive rights. He just doesn't want to be open minded and learn. And I would say that's the biggest thing I've gained from being in the military, being in the arts, being in science and technology, living around the country. It's like, oh, wow, there's different ways of looking at things, have an open mind. And again, the truth will rise to the top.
Okay, let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
Um, I would like you to tell me something about your district that makes it very special to you.
Well, first and foremost, this is where I was born and raised. We all have an attachment to our homes that for me has
Are you there?
this is yes, this has always been home for me. Um, and then also something I've learned after living around the country in different places is that the diversity of the ethnicities we have here is so unique. We have such individual cultural identities But through, sometimes decades of pain and struggle, we have managed to integrate while keeping our cultural heritages alive. From a political standpoint, my district, it really is a microcosm of America. An area that used to be one of the greatest wealth makers in the country, one of the highest standards of living, robust industry, robust and supported farmers. And it's on a downward slope from that. And that's why it's vital for me to help us get back to where we were. And we can do it. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. I will be one of 435 people. It's going to take a coalition. But it's the salt of the earth where I live. Again, from rural to urban, manufacturing to farming. It's incredibly vital that we don't leave the workers of our country, those that feed us in the world, behind. Yeah. And I believe we could start a national movement from right here.
Fantastic. All right, Michael Kripchak is running for the U.S. House of Representatives to represent District 6. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Brian.